Good morning, everybody. My name is the Saubrey Boyz Walefatse from the Big R, doing the Big R Solution Sports Program. Every Saturday morning we do. And you know the first part, especially in the morning, we are doing what you call a controversial aspect or a controversial issue or a burning issue, all right? And I know for some time we have been having Royal AM, Sukukune, PSL, all sorts of things. So that's the issue that we are going to discuss today. I've invited Advocate Mahlantola to give us a legal perspective of this activities or this saga that is unfolding. And then on Tuesday morning, I will be joined by a guy from Sunday World who has done a lot of work as far as this story is concerned. His name is Khomotso Mokoena. He will be giving us blow by blow where it started up to where we are. But today we want a legal opinion, all right, just to enlighten all of us. Welcome to the show, Advocate, and greet the viewers.
Good morning, Saubrey. Good morning, my brother there. And good morning to the viewers. Yes, interesting times indeed. I think maybe where we need to start is to look at all the teams that are directly affected by this, should I call it shenanigans, you know? If you recall, just to wrap up a little bit, if you recall, there was an issue about the 3 points that were awarded to Sekhukhune United by Senior Counsel Epstein, pursuant to an arbitration. Now, obviously, once that arbitration award is out, there are certain teams that will be aggrieved and there are certain teams that will be beneficiaries, you know. Now, in the light of the award that was made by Senior Counsel Epstein, obviously Sekhukhune United benefited because they were awarded 3 points. Now, who are the losers in this scenario? The losers obviously would be Royal AM, because remember, had those 3 points not been awarded to Sekhukhune, Royal AM would have been granted automatic promotion, you know. So Royal AM are the losers in as far as that Epstein Senior Counsel Arbitration Award is concerned. The other loser is Polokwane City, because remember, the Epstein Senior Counsel Arbitration Award deducted 3 points from Polokwane and awarded them to Sekhukhune. Now you have one team that is a beneficiary of that award, and you have 2 teams that are losers. Now, obviously, there has to be some form of legal action that is taken. And I must indicate up front that all these teams that approach the courts to seek a relief are entitled to do that. There's nothing wrong with that, because they are exercising their rights in terms of the law. Any individual person, any entity has a right to approach the courts and seek a particular relief. So we can't blame Sekhukhune United, we can't blame Polokwane City, we can't blame Royal AM for having approached the courts to seek the relief that they were seeking. Now, here is the scenario now. Sekhukhune United, having been awarded 3 points, immediately rushed to the court, South Gauteng High Court.
Just hold it
to request.
I also want you to clarify in terms of FIFA regulation in relation to teams approaching the courts. Can you clarify that? As much as you said, all teams and every individual has a right to approach the court, but give me the perspective. I know you have done it, but for the benefit of those viewers who never heard that, so if you can just articulate what is the rule as far as the FIFA is concerned.
Yeah, look, I think it depends on the nature of the issue that is being held at that point in time, you know. And I must confess upfront, I have not had an opportunity to go through specifically the FIFA regulations in as far as they deal with this particular aspect, you know. If you recall our previous discussion, I think we dealt with the NSL handbook. And that's how far I could go in terms of finding out the authority that the disciplinary committee had, as well as the legal effect of the award made by the disciplinary committee. But from the general perspective, I know that in all sporting activities, and football is not unique, the sporting activities would like to keep their disputes in-house, and that includes FIFA, you know. And in most cases, the FIFA regulations, they specify to say, for example, if there's governmental interference in sporting activities, that has an effect of that particular sporting association being suspended, you know. In respect of the approach of the courts, I can say generally, without specifically referring to any particular provision of the FIFA regulations, to say that that would not be permissible. But obviously what I'm saying is subject to me doing further research, because I'm just talking from the general, you know, perspective in terms of how sporting activities operate across the globe.
Okay.
But now coming back to the issue that I wanted to highlight.
Yeah.
Remember I said that Sekhukhune United were a beneficiary. So them being a beneficiary approached the court, requesting the court to make a declaratory order, requesting the court to deem the Epstein Senior Counsel Arbitration Award final and binding. They are exercising their right. They are saying, we've been awarded 3 points, so we would like the court to make an order to say the award is final and binding. Now, on the other hand, you have Polokwane City also approaching the court, South Gauteng High Court, requesting an order from the court to review and set aside the Epstein Senior Counsel Arbitration Award. And then you have Royal AM also approaching the courts, because remember at that point in time, subsequent to that arbitration award, the PSL then decided that they will reinstitute the playoffs. Because remember, the playoffs were held in abeyance, subject to the Epstein decision. Now, once the Epstein decision went out, it was then challenged by Polokwane City. Unfortunately, Polokwane City were not successful because Ronald Sutherland, who's a judge, dismissed Polokwane City's review application to set aside the decision of Epstein. So the Polokwane City legal action failed at the level of the application of the review.
Reasons?
Now,
reasons being?
No, reasons being, the Epstein did not conduct himself in a manner that would subject his proceedings to a review, you know, because remember, when you make an application for review, you are actually saying to the court that there were irregularities in the proceedings.
Okay. While you are still there, according to your knowledge, I know that you have done a lot in terms of labor regulations and labor laws. Arbitration. What is the status of arbitration? Is the award of arbitration final and binding?
Indeed, it is. I think you have answered that question. It is final and binding to the parties. Okay. So until such time that is set aside by a court of law. Remember, it can still be subjected to a review process, yes. And that's exactly what I was trying to explain, to say, Polokwane City approached the court, requesting the South Gauteng High Court to review and to set aside the arbitration award that was made by Epstein Senior Counsel. Now, they were not successful. The court found that that particular award cannot be set aside and it cannot be reviewed. So Polokwane City were not successful. Now, the PSL, armed with this particular Sutherland decision, then decided that they will reconstitute the playoffs, that the playoffs will proceed. Because Polokwane City's attempt to review and set aside the award failed. Now, in the process, when the PSL was to implement, its program in terms of the playoffs. Now, Royal AM, on the other hand, then approached the court seeking to interdict the playoffs. They were successful. Acting Judge Nyati granted them the relief. He granted them the interdict.
All right.
So the playoffs were then interdicted.
All right. You know why I was asking about the award of the arbitration, whether it's final and binding? You explain it nicely that if it can be reviewed and the review becomes successful, so it can be, they will be successful.
Can be set aside, yes.
Now, the court has not set aside that review. Now, over and above, because the court has not set aside the review, now the PSL, being empowered by that, they said the playoffs must go on. Now, AM, irrespective of the fact that this award could not be reviewed, they then apply to court. I wanted people to get a clarity.
Yes. Now, the clarity, I think it's important that you raise that question. Remember, when Royal AM approaches the court, they are interdicting. Interdict means to stop that process of the playoffs, to prohibit the playoffs from proceeding. Now, they were successful. Acting Judge Nyati granted them the interdict. Now, I'm not sure the kind of interdict that has been granted, but let me explain the issue of interdicts a little bit. You see, in most cases, interdicts are not final orders. It's a temporary order, subject to something they call the rule nisi. Rule nisi, it means the return date. If I approach the court, if I were to approach the court today for an interdict, the other party, that is an opponent or an opposing party, will be given an opportunity within a specific period of time to state to the court why that particular interim order should not be made final. I guess that could have been the kind of interdict that the court granted to Royal AM, subject to a return date. For the other party to come and explain why that order can't be made final. But that order, in any case, was granted to Royal AM. Now, I've already explained, remember we have 4 parties here. Sekhukhune United, having approached the court, seeking a declaratory order to make the award final and binding, could not proceed because, it's an academic exercise pursuant to Judge Ronald Sutherland's decision not to set aside the arbitration award. It would be an academic exercise for Sekhukhune to proceed because Judge Roland Sutherland's decision favors them. So Sekhukhune is now out of the picture. Now, Polokwane City made an application to appeal.
Before you go further, Judge Sunderland, did he preside over the matter and say, it's academic, we can't proceed? Because
No. Okay. Remember, the Sekhukhune United matter, it's a matter that was not dealt with by Judge Sutherland. Okay. Judge Sutherland was dealing with the matter between relating to Polokwane City.
Okay.
Because, the review, yes, the review application that was filed by Polokwane City.
Okay.
Then Sekhukhune also filed their own application for a declaratory order to declare the award final and binding. Now, Judge Sutherland, having refused to set aside and review the arbitration award, it would be an academic exercise for Sekhukhune to proceed because the decision of Sutherland favors them.
Okay. So they withdrew them.
Are we together?
Yeah.
Are we together?
Yeah. I want
now
to the viewers. That's why.
Yeah. Now Polokwane City, having failed in their bid to review and set aside the arbitration award, requested for leave to appeal before Judge Sutherland. Judge Sutherland refused to grant them leave to appeal. They wanted to appeal the decision that was made by Sutherland, not to review and set aside the arbitration award. I mean, to appeal it. And then Judge Sutherland refused to grant them that right to appeal. Leave to appeal, not right to appeal. Now, Royal AM, relying on the interim relief that they were granted, for lack of a better word, I'll call it the interim relief, the interdict that they were granted, then approach the court to say, look, the PSL can't proceed with the playoffs. If they do proceed, then it means they are in contempt of the court order. And that's where the issue of contempt comes into the picture. Them relying on the interdict that they were granted by acting Judge Nyati, approach the court to say, please hold these people in contempt, in particular the CEO of the PSL, in contempt of this particular judgment that we have in our possession. Now, it's important that I need to explain the requirements for a party to be successful in contempt, what exactly they need to prove. It's simple. The first issue that you need to prove is that there's a court order. The existence of the court order. That's the first issue. The second issue is that you need to prove to the court that the other parties are aware about the court. Just awareness about it. They know about it.
Now, awareness, knowing about it, you have shared.
Knowing about it.
Yeah, you have shared your affidavit with them. That's what it means, or you have filed.
No, not necessarily. That the court order was brought to their attention. You can prove to the court that maybe it was sent by email or it was sent by hand delivered whatsoever.
Yeah. Okay.
Just to prove that they are aware, they have the order in their possession. They know about it.
Yeah.
Then the third requirement, you must prove to the court that in fact they are in contempt of that order. They are in violation of that order. Then the fourth requirement, and that fourth requirement, I'll explain it to you because it's different from these three, and it's also a matter of law, which I think I need to explain thoroughly for the viewers. The fourth requirement is that there must be willfulness and malafide. Malafide simply means bad intentions. You willfully acted, malafide, with bad intentions, not to observe the order. Now let's ask ourselves these questions. When Royal AM approached the court for a contempt, was there a court order? Okay, let's answer that question and say, okay, yes, there was a court order. It was an interdict order that was granted by acting Judge Nyati. Now, what is the effect of that court order? Does the court order reverses, for example, does it reverse the decision of Judge Roland Sutherland in as far as it relates to his refusal to set aside and to review the arbitration award? The answer to that question is no, it doesn't. It merely interdicts the continuance of the playoffs. It does not remove the 3 points from Sekhukhune United. You know? Now, the second question is, are they aware? Okay, let's say they are aware about it. Yes, they are. They might be aware about it. Are they in contempt? You know, is the NSL or PSL in contempt by continuing with the playoffs, despite the fact that there's an interdict that was granted by acting Judge Nyati? You know, and those are the questions that I think the court dealt with in respect of this particular application by Royal AM. Now, and those are three.
Just there.
Yeah.
Now, you are saying the interdict did not take away the 3 points from Sekhukhune. It was interdicting the game, but the 3 points remain with Sekhukhune.
They remain with Sekhukhune.
That was the order. All right.
No, look, the order did not have the effect of taking the 3 points away from Sekhukhune.
Did not have the effect. It did
exactly.
not pronounce per se.
Exactly, because remember, the court was not asked to deal with that aspect.
Yeah.
The court was not requested by Royal AM to deduct the 3 points and then give them back to Polokwane City so that they get promoted. That was not the order by AJ Nyati.
Yeah.
The order by AJ Nyati was to interdict the continuation of the playoffs. Because remember, the PSL made its intentions clear subsequent to receiving the Roland Sutherland decision to refuse to grant a review or to set an arbitration award aside. So pursuant to that, then the PSL decided, okay, let's put dates down and let's continue with the playoffs. But Royal AM approached the court and said, no, interdict. And then AJ Nyati interdicted the playoffs. Now, is there a contempt from the perspective of the PSL?
Before you go there, you know why I was asking that question? I was asking that question for the sake of academic exercise to say, if the 3 points were not taken, the status quo was still like that. We were still on top of the log.
That is true.
You get where I'm driving. I want the listeners to understand that the mere fact that there was any effect to the 3 points, Sekhukhune remained number one. That's all.
Indeed. In fact, there's a court order to that effect. There's a court order to that effect. The order by Roland Sutherland, who refused to set the arbitration award aside or to review that particular arbitration award. So that is an order of the court, and that order of the court, it says the status quo ante, in as far as the arbitration award is concerned, remains. So that arbitration award is intact. The arbitration award that was made by Epstein is intact. So it has not been set aside. That is why we say the interdict did not have the effect of taking the 3 points away, because the interdict had absolutely nothing to do with reviewing or setting aside the arbitration award. It is what it is. That's what Royal AM were granted to say, okay, let's halt the playoffs.
Yeah.
You know? Now they approached the court on the strength of that particular interdict order that was granted by acting Judge Nyati, saying to the court, look, the PSL are in contempt, and the court unfortunately found that there was no contempt. But before we go there, I just want to explain this because it's very important for the listeners to understand. Yeah. The first three requirements are the requirements that have to be proved by an applicant, a party that initiates the proceedings, one that approaches the court. You need only prove those three to say there's an order, the other parties are aware about the order, and that they are in contempt. The fourth requirement is what we call reverse honors. Once the applicant has proven those three, then the respondent will then have to, because it is deemed that, because there's a contempt, it is deemed that there was a mala fide and that it was willful. Now, the respondent will have then to come and convince the court that their action of not complying with the court order was not willful and was not mala fide. Now, in this case, and the reason I'm explaining this is very important. In this case, I do not even think that the respondent had to deal with that particular stage. Because the court, at the face of it, they indicated to say, look, the matter that has been brought before us, according to the court, they are saying this matter, in fact, the relief that Royal AM was seeking from the court is contrary to the finding of the very same court and is not supported by the facts or the law. Remember, Ronald Sunderland made a decision. Now, basically, the reasoning of the court is such that because there's a decision by Judge Roland Sunderland, the relief that Royal AM are seeking is contrary to that particular decision.
Just explain to our viewers. What do you mean when you say contrary? Just give.
No. For example, remember what Royal AM were looking for.
Yeah.
Royal AM are saying, look, this process should halt. Because we feel that we are aggrieved. We feel that Sekhukhune United should not have been awarded the 3 points. Because if Sekhukhune United were not awarded the 3 points, we were going to be automatically promoted, you know, to the PSL first division.
Yeah.
Now the court is basically saying to Royal AM, look, the arbitration award has not been set aside by Sutherland. So if you come here to this court and saying that the PSL, by continuing with the playoffs, are in contempt of the order, you are basically asking us to make an order that is contrary to the order that was made by Roland Sutherland, Judge Roland Sutherland, you know? So, and that's where we are. Look, I think maybe there might be a process in relation to what next needs to be done by Royal AM. But remember, Judge Roland Sutherland even refused an appeal by Polokwane City. And the matter died just there, you know. So it's unfortunate that we find ourselves in this situation. But like I said when I started, look, all the teams are entitled to exercise their rights in terms of the law and approach the courts and seek the relief that they are seeking. But that's where we are. That attempt by Royal AM to obtain a contempt order against the CEO of the PSL was unsuccessful.
All right.
And that's where we are.
While you're still there, Now, the judge has refused the leave to appeal. Isn't it that even if, I'm talking now, I want you to explain from legal perspective, even if the judge has refused the leave to appeal, you can still approach the Supreme
Indeed, yes.
Court of Appeal. For a person to do that, what would have happened? Because the court, the lower court, has refused. All right. So I want you to give explanation. What would have happened? Remember, we are.
What should happen? Yeah. True, and that's a good question. You see, once you approach the court, the court approval, you say to the court, look, I'm not happy with your decision. I would like to appeal your decision, and the court refuses. The next thing that you need to do is to petition the Supreme Court of Appeal. So currently, I'm not too sure if Royal AM have done that, but that's another, step that they can take in pursuance of their dispute. So they are entitled to petition the Supreme Court of Appeal. But remember, appeal cannot automatically be granted. Even if the Supreme Court of Appeal were to be petitioned, they could still refuse, but who knows what might happen. But I think that's the next stage, or the next step that the Royal AM would be advised to take in respect of this issue.
The latest is it did went to the Supreme Court of Appeal, and they lost it again at the Supreme Court of Appeal. According to some information that I picked up from the media, all right, subject to correction if that is not the case. And then apparently Royal AM, they still want to pursue it. All right. So that's it. That's what I picked up.
Yeah, look, once the Supreme Court of Appeal has refused to grant them,
not to say they have refused. Apparently they failed. As far as
what I'm trying to explain, whether or not they failed, I'm just saying maybe a scenario. Let's just paint a scenario to say they approach the Supreme Court of Appeal and then they fail. Then they can approach the Constitutional Court. But remember, the Constitutional Court is not the court of first instance, and you can only approach the Constitutional Court once you raise a constitutional issue. So first, before the Constitutional Court can deal with your issue, they have to be convinced that the issue that you are bringing before it is of a constitutional nature, And then once the court finds that it is of a constitutional nature, then they can hear Royal AM out to say what of their rights, what of their constitutional rights do they, think that have been violated, I think fortunately for them, they still have another hurdle, which is to approach the Constitutional Court, but on the basis that the approach is based on a constitutional matter that they will bring before the Constitutional Court.
Okay. Now, hypothetically, let's say they have approached the Constitutional Court. Let's say, and then the Constitutional Court hear the case. What could be the possible judgment of the Constitutional Court? Will the Constitutional Court come up with an order to refer the matter back to the lower court, or remember it's a hypothetical thing, so don't talk it as a fact. We don't know how are they. I'm just wanting to know, how will the Constitutional Court react having listened? Let's say they find that no, Royal AM were hardly done. So a decision that we take. So what I want to know, if that decision, the Constitutional Court, can they refer it back to the lower court, to the Court of Appeal or the higher court, or can they come up with an order that is that option?
Yeah, they can do. You see, the Constitutional Court can do both of those remedies that you have painted out, they can remit the matter back, they can make an order, you know, they can prohibit, you know, the games from continuing. They can, you know, make specific orders to the PSL, you know, in terms of how they should proceed with the playoffs or the promotions. But you see, the thing here is, I doubt that the Constitutional Court will even stoop to that level. Hence, I indicated to say, bring a constitutional matter to the court. You know, say, for example, to the court, my right to dignity has been violated, my right to life, my right to health, my right, you know. I wouldn't think that the Constitutional Court will deal with the nitty-gritties of, you know, playoffs and promotions and all those sort of things, unless you bring a constitutional issue before the court.
Well, we just wanted to give clarity to our viewers. At the same time, we are trying to educate. That is the purpose, so that people can start understanding that going forward, how should they do things. We don't want to cut any aspect to anybody. As you said, I like the way you put it. Everybody has a right. Every entity and individual has a right to approach the court. It doesn't mean that because you have approached the court, now you will be seen as a bad boy. You know, that is, you need to emphasize that. Advocate Mahlantola, I realized that trend has disappeared. I don't know what happened. Probably you might have some questions that you'd like to ask. And then hopefully we have asked good question to help our viewers to understand. And viewers out there, continue to subscribe, comment, ask questions, and then because it's important to know this. It might be looking like, oh, this is for LAM and Sekhukhune and Polokwane City. It will also apply in your scenario. So you need to be at least well educated enough to understand how to behave going forward. Jackie, are you available?
Yes, my brother.
Yeah, and then I don't see. Do you have any question that you like to ask, that can bring more clarity?
Okay. I heard today that royal to the Constitutional Court. Is that a legal process when it comes to football?
Yeah, look, I think we have touched on that. You see, sporting federations, they are very jealousy around, you know, the rules and the laws that are applicable to associations and teams, you know. In fact, I'm watching this space because I would have expected maybe to see maybe intervention by SAFA, you know, intervention by CAF, and hopefully also intervention by FIFA. But so far, we are seeing this matter playing itself out, you know, in the courts. And I'm interested to note, in fact, it's a very good question you are raising. I'm interested to note how these federations will respond to this particular activity that is taking place in the courts instead of in the boardrooms within the federations themselves.
And a very interesting, we haven't heard anything from either SAFA, as you said, or FIFA, you know, any comment or whatsoever. You're absolutely right. We need to watch the space and see how things are going to unfold. But we wanted just to dissect the legal aspect so that our people can understand. So on my side, I think I'm happy with the explanation that you gave. Viewers out there, if there's still any other question that you'd like to ask, please pass them and then we'll forward them to the advocate so that the day when we have the advocate, then he can explain. Yeah, Jackie, I'm sure you are satisfied, isn't it? Jackie? You are satisfied? Can you hear me?
Yes, my brother.
All right.
Yeah, I'm
Advocate,
satisfied, 100%. Yes.
it was
Yes,
nice.
I can hear you.
Okay. It was nice having you. And then thank you for coming when we request you to come and explain. And then we'll hear on Monday. Homuzo won't give us a legal aspect. He's going to give us a journalistic work in terms of research. What have they done? And I hope you'll watch this so that when he comes Tuesday morning, he can be able to navigate properly. Thank you for coming. Much appreciated.
Thanks to you and thanks to the viewers and a very good morning.
Good morning. Jackie?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Advocate, and thank you very much to you, Tao, as well, and the viewers at home.
Thank you.